a metaphor? So I come to you today as an Arab American, as a woman, as a mother of 3 children, and I come to you scared shitless. And I think all of us should be scared shitless right now. I have spent my life watching this country bomb and occupy people who look like me and who are like me and who come from heritages that are similar to mine. I have watched for the last 30 years the U.S. government occupying people like me. I have watched them destroying us. I have watched them creating racist portrayals of us in order to justify that occupation. And yet I have never been scared as much as I am today and right now in our world. Because this administration is not just occupying and bombing people. This administration is not simply oppressing people and giving jobs to rich cronies. This administration is trying to create a world in which we cannot do this. We cannot protest. I was out in the streets 20 years ago. I'm 42 now, so it's most of my life I've been being out in the streets doing something. And I've been out in the streets protesting, knowing that I have a right to express my voice and say, don't kill people like me, don't murder black people, don't murder indigenous people. And right now I am scared that we are on the verge of a world where we cannot do this anymore. And that is very, very concerning. That is the thing we should be fighting for right now. Not for one election, not for one issue that we care about, but to ensure that we can maintain a world in which all of us can use our voices to resist fascism and resist the horrific stuff that we see every day. I'm also a scholar of social movements. I teach about education, but I'm a scholar of social movements. And one thing that I can see very clearly is that we have grassroots activism in the forms of the Black Lives Matter movement. We have grassroots activism in the form of indigenous people fighting to shut down pipelines. We have grassroots activism in the form of fighting the Trump and Pence administration, in the form of fighting for trans people, in the form of fighting for all kinds of issues that affect the most vulnerable people in our society. And we are seeing wealthy people invest in what we call astroturf activism. Astroturf activism is when wealthy people go and fund protests that look like grassroots movements, that look like this. But what they are is rich people ensuring that white supremacy continues and that the white people who are very scared to lose what they might lose if black people and other people of color rise up, that those people are going to, that they will come out in the streets and be mobilized to fight for the rich, right? When we see people fighting against masks, when we see people showing up at Black Lives Matter protests with guns and shooting protesters, those are people who are mobilized by the rich. This is a world that we do not want to continue. We need to fight against astroturf activism and use our grassroots voices to shut that down. Sorry. White people, I call on you right now to bring in your own. Talk to your relatives who are scared of racial justice. Talk to them and tell them how important it is to fight against the Trump regime. Talk to them and put them at ease and tell them that they won't lose anything if we have an egalitarian society. This is scary. This is a scary moment in our world. And the stakes are high. We can come out, and this is important work that we're doing right now, coming out here. But we also need to be having conversations with people all the way up to the election and past the election. This is not a matter of polite disagreement. This is not a matter of people simply disagreeing on some neutral, like not very important issues. This is a matter of fighting against a regime that does not see most of us as human. We are not seen as human by these people that are in power right now. Not only do they want power, they don't want us to exist. We are human, and every single person out there who is fighting against this regime needs to see this as a fight for our lives. A friend of mine the other day said that Trump is a bottomless pit of evil. I actually really love that term because every time the man does the thing that I think he's sunk the lowest on, he turns around and then does something even lower. So I thought bottomless pit of evil would be a really good thing to yell. So I'd just like you to join me in saying, Trump is a bottomless pit of evil. Trump is a bottomless pit of evil. Trump is a bottomless pit of evil. The bottomless pit of evil. Every time you are thinking, how can I organize to get this guy out of office? Just think to yourself how important that work is, because this man is a bottomless pit of evil. He will not stop. What we are seeing now is nothing compared to what we will see when he is emboldened by a re-election. We all know that, right? So I hope also that everybody who's standing here right now and all the people who care about this will show up after the election too. I hope that you recognize that if we can vote this man out, if we vote Biden in, we have to hold that guy accountable just as strongly as we are holding Trump accountable. These are the same, these are folks who also are emboldened by white supremacy, right? They are fighting for white supremacy just as much as Trump is. They're just not as effective at it, and they're not doing it in such a fascist way, right? But we need to make sure that we are holding them accountable. We are fighting against systems of power, not just one man or two men, right? Not just one regime, not just one administration. We are fighting against systems of power here. But we will not be able to continue the fight against those systems of power if we don't get rid of Trump Pence. So let's just join with a nice chant right